Hello and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host Hal, and with me here today, Buster. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Been on the show before, ready to do another stint. Very excited, even though Discord profile pictures wouldn't make us match, but oh, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So Buster had the genius idea, because we're talking about the Blues Brothers as one of the movies today, so that he had the genius idea of having both of our profile pics on Discord being that of the titular Blues Brothers. And then it didn't work. So now I'm just Elwood with blue face.
It does fit you well, I'd say. It does fit you well.
Dude, is that fucking Blueface?
Is that Blueface, dude? Yeah. And like, my avatar is already blue with a fedora, so I'm like, screw it.
It works. So yeah, you'll just be Jake. But yeah, as I said, we're talking about the Blues Brothers as one of our movies today, because remind me why you wanted to do the Blues Brothers with the next movie we're going to be talking about for this episode.
They have similar plots.
Okay.
They have similar plots, and they're both based around music.
Sure. You know what? That's fair to say.
Yeah, I think we'll get to why we cover the other movie with Blues Brothers when we get to that movie.
Sure.
But like also just another reason I want to cover Blues Brothers like specifically on my episode is because I'm an Illinois boy. This is a Chicagoland movie, even though it was apparently produced in California. But hey, the movies, you know.
Well, yeah, that's usually the case. That the story goes. I love using this story is that the first Halloween movie takes place in Haddonfield, Illinois, but it was filmed in California, and you can figure that out quite easily because whenever there's a scene at the high school, they have lockers outside, and you being from Illinois, there's a couple of months out of the year where it would be impossible for you to have lockers on the outside of the school.
Yeah.
we have this season called winter up here in the north, so it's kind of impossible for us to go out into the elements, if you will, to get our textbooks. So also there were palm trees in the neighborhood whenever Michael Myers was walking through. So it's just like, yeah, that's California. You're not fooling anybody. Anyway.
Yeah. But I think it was from what I understand, it was produced in California, but they actually did film in Illinois.
Yes, absolutely. I believe that because they're actually one of the very first shots in the movie. In fact, the way the movie opens is through going across the lands of Illinois, all the factories, all the oil refineries and stuff like that. And it's nothing but flat land and factories. And it's really something. It looks very Midwestern when it opens up.
And I did recognize a few of the Chicagoland locations in the final car chase, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah. Also, there's like a shot when we get to the prison. There's a shot where you see Jake and a couple of guards walking through the prison yard, and the camera pans up, and you just see completely flat land forever from there. So that, I believe, that is Illinois, because it's completely flat out there where you guys are.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah, you don't see, again, to bring up another movie that's supposed to take place in Chicago, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. There's a scene where they're going to find a tree in the forest, and you just see the Rocky Mountains behind them at one point.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
this is the authentic Illinois movie.
Yeah, this is very much an authentic Illinois movie. Again, I've never been to Illinois, but I'm speaking as even though I'm speaking as someone with common sense in that, yeah, I know that the Midwest is completely flat out there. You're not going to see a lot of mountains.
Yeah. But yeah, Blues Brothers. I think we watched this like a while back with our just the friend group. We just I don't know why we put on Blues Brothers. I guess we just felt like it.
Yeah, I guess William wanted to show it to us. I mean, I had already seen it. I saw this movie when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. I saw this movie as a kid. So I was already quite familiar with it when William showed us. But yeah, you guys were not as familiar with it.
Yeah, I was aware of it, and like I knew about like stuff like the Blues Brothers 2000s from like, of course, the Nostalgia Critic review.
Right. I rewatched that review and his review of the video game as well. Both classic Blues Brothers Nostalgia Critic content.
Yeah, the video game one is especially funny.
Yeah.
That's besides the point. Yeah, and it's like, and I just kind of like fell in love with just like how great this movie is, because yeah, there's spoilers. Blues Brothers, iconic movie. Like apparently it didn't get the best reviews on release. I don't know if it just had to do with the perception of like, oh, it's an SNL movie, because I often forget this too. This movie is based on an SNL bit.
Yeah, so the Blues Brothers started off. It didn't start off as a SNL bit necessarily. It was popularized through SNL because Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi are famously some of the original cast members of Saturday Night Live. So that's how they kind of promoted and got it so then people know who the Blues Brothers are outside of New York or Chicago. But yes, they were popularized through Saturday Night Live, so that makes this like the very first Saturday Night Live movie.
I can say this: it's better than Coneheads.
Well, a lot of things are better than Coneheads, but Coneheads is its own thing, Buster. You must understand.
Yeah. I do. It's just, but they're both classified as Snell movies. So.
Yeah. Well, this was back at a time when also, I guess, SNL was seen as a prestigious comedy show, as opposed to now where nobody finds it funny anymore because, well, I mean, it's the common perception of SNL now is that it's not funny. And I mean, comedy is subjective, but also I've seen some of the modern skits and I'm like, that's just not funny. So
that's
bad. I know. I'm echoing what everybody's been saying for years, that SNL is not funny anymore, but that's just the case. It's not funny anymore. So
even, like with this movie, I honestly find its strengths to not be with the comedy. The comedy's still good, don't get me wrong. But like its strengths kind of lie in its style, for lack of a better word. Absolutely.
Yes. No, this movie works not because it's a strong comedy film. It is funny from time to time, but I definitely don't love it because it's the funniest comedy movie I've ever seen. It's not. I would even classify something like Ghostbusters, another Dan Aykroyd movie, as being funnier than Blues Brothers.
There's more overt jokes in that Ghostbusters. This is more like, it's more of an adventure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's an adventure film. It's also a musical. You know, the emphasis on this film, the strongest aspect of this movie is its music. Duh.
Yeah.
The Blues Brothers are a band, so they kind of
it better be.
Yeah, the music better be the most important part of it. But when you think of the best comedy films, as great as they are, you're not often complimenting the music as being one of the standouts in a comedy film. Comedy films can absolutely have great musical scores. Like I just said, Ghostbusters, that has an amazing film score. That's actually really good. That actually has really good music. Something like Airplane actually does have good music as well, but also that's to the film's strength, and also that's also part of the joke. Fun fact, both Ghostbusters and Airplane have scores done by Elmer Bernstein, very famous film composer. But anyway, this is different though, because this is not just the score, but the soundtrack. The actual musical numbers they perform in this movie are amazing.
Yeah, it's not even just the songs they're singing themselves. It's just the energy of the performances of like everyone dancing.
Yeah,
it's like a party movie. I think that's the best way to describe those words. It's a party movie. It's a great movie to just throw on and like, you know, at a party. And it's like it's both great to pay attention to, but like if you just want to put something on in the background, Blues Brothers perfect for that, because it's just, hey, like it gets everyone energized, you know?
Yeah, and it's a definite love letter to the R&B, rhythm and blues, the actual blues genre of music for sure, because you get, not only do you get original songs done by the Blues Brothers, but you also get covers. You get actual songs, actual blues songs by actual blues bands being played throughout. Yeah. Like they actually have a scene. There's that scene early on when they go to Ray's which is where Ray
Ray
Charles is. But it's before then where they're driving down the street. No, it's not before Ray's. It's before they find Matt Murphy and Blue Lou at the restaurant. That's when they're driving through like downtown Chicago or some city, and there's like there's a whole bunch of people. There's like a farmer's market. There's all this food, and these people are selling like art and music and stuff like that. They're driving through the streets, and that's when you see John Lee Hooker performing. Yeah, and but like that's a real musician, John Lee Hooker, and he's actually performing to people. It's like a really interesting scene. It's just to establish them going to the next scene in the story, but it also has so much life and culture to it that it is in and of itself a really good scene, even though it doesn't really have anything to do with the story.
Yeah, the entire movie kind of there is like a plot in
Yes.
Blues Brothers, but it's not like a driving force, I'd argue.
It is and it isn't. It's not the main focus, but it is.
Focus.
Yeah,
it is a driving force. It's just focus is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's not the main focus. Yes, the main story is that Jake gets let out of prison because he was in prison for, I don't know. They claim at some point he was put in prison because he held up a gas station to pay off the band members, but I'd almost like to believe that's not the reason. That's just something Elwood said to bullshit the band members into believing him that, oh, Jake was just standing up for you guys, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's let out of prison, and they go to their old orphanage just to visit, and it's revealed that, oh, the orphanage is being closed down. The orphanage is being closed down.
That old cliche.
Yeah, but and so then they have to be like, oh, we have to put on a show to raise money so then the orphanage can be saved. Yes, you're right. It is a very cliched story in that it's getting the band back together. We gotta set up a show to save our place of birth or whatever. Yeah, you've seen this kind of story done before. We're going to be talking about it in the next movie we're talking about. It's been done in The Muppets. It's been done in a couple Muppet movies, actually.
Yeah, like multiple Muppet movies have done it.
Yeah.
It's great.
And UHF does it. You know, the UHF has a, oh, save the place that's important to us plot. Like, you've seen this plot done before time and time again. So you're right. The actual story is not where the movie's focused at, but it is still a well-told version of that kind of story.
Like again, like cliches aren't a bad thing. You just gotta like do them well, and just with enough heart. And you would get a sense that they do care.
Yes,
like especially like in the famous or infamous, I don't know if the church scene where it's like they get the mission from God.
Yeah,
like you really get like. It's a comedic bit. Like, it's arguably the funniest bit in the movie where it's like he just, like, Jim Belushi, like, oh, he gets this vision and then he starts doing backflips and it's like, I must do this thing. It's like, but it's still like, you know, you really, even in the scene before that, you just really get a sense of like, yeah, they care about this place, even if they have fallen from grace, you know?
Well, it's interesting. So when Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi go to the orphanage at first, Jake and Elwood, when they go to the orphanage at first, Jake is just like, I'm not going in there. I was just lying to her. And then they actually walk up into the nun's office. Remember, it's the giant fucking Jesus statue hanging over the stairs.
So funny.
It's so absurd, but I love that. It's so funny. And so then and that's when the nun tells them like, oh, this is being shut down. And even then, like, Jake's just like, hey, we'll help out this place, you know, we were born here. And she's like, no, you guys are filthy thieves, I'm not taking your stolen money. He's like, well, I guess you're up Shit's Creek. And that's when she starts slapping him with the rulers. So you'd think like, oh, why would you care for this woman who's clearly abusing you? But then you get the introduction of Cab Calloway's character Curtis, their actual mentor, the guy who actually introduced them to blues. And then then we get to the church scene where God shines his light down on John Belushi as James Brown and his congregation are dancing. And they're just like, do you see the light? He's like, yes, Jesus age tap dancing Christ, I see the light.
It's great.
It's a really funny scene, yes, but it's also really impressive because well, James Brown is a natural entertainer, and he's singing this really catchy song, and you just seeing all these people dancing in church and jumping up into the air. It's comedic, but also just in a genuinely fun kind of way where you're laughing at it, but you're also laughing with it.
Yeah, it's a party. It's a party. It's a party.
Movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I always forget Carrie Fisher's in this film.
So
as like
that's one of the subplots. They've been sent on a mission from God, and so then they have to go and find their band members while also being chased by the state police, Illinois Nazis, and Carrie Fisher.
Neo-Nazis. Yeah.
So
yeah, the three. What's a good categorization? I don't know. The three fellas.
The three antagonists: state police, Illinois Nazis, and Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, every film needs to have them.
Yeah, every film needs them. So to explain Carrie Fisher, it's revealed towards the end that she's just a jealous ex-girlfriend. Basically the thing that Kitty Softpaws is in Last Wish, where she's just like, you were supposed to come to Santa Coloma, you know?
Yeah.
Basically that.
But like I just love I think she also provides all the funniest running gags of just like the firearms she uses and just like how absurdly like insane they get and just to chase these brothers.
Yeah, exactly. So her first scene, you see Jake and Elwood are walking into Elwood's apartment building, and she just takes out a bazooka and shoots him and explodes the front door. And then they just get up from the debris and they're like, "Oh, that was weird," and just keep walking up. And then she comes back the next morning, blows up the whole apartment complex, and then they just walk out of the rubble, and Elwood's just like, "Oh, geez, it's 9 o'clock. We got to get to work," and they just walk away like nothing happened.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that you see them just go through this carnage that they would absolutely not survive, but the fact they just walk away with minor scratches and just seem more so confused than actually hurt. It's funny. Like it's so absurd and comedic that it works really well.
Yeah, like I know we were talking about like, the comedy's not the best part of this movie, but it's still a great part of the movie.
It's still strong.
It's just not like what you think of when you think of a comedy, if that makes sense.
It's not. Like again, I can name other movies that I would find funnier, like UHF, Airplane, Ghostbusters, Great Muppet Caper. Like those are movies I would consider to be some of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life.
Laugh riots.
Yes, laugh riots, absolutely. Whereas Blues Brothers, I could see Blues Brothers being in my top 10 favorite comedies. It's just those movies are far funnier, whereas this one's just a genuinely great film outside of it being a good comedy.
Yeah. There's other, like, Blues Brothers is supported by other aspects, but the comedy's still strong.
Exactly.
And also, like, speaking of those other aspects, well, we mentioned, like, some of the effects work. Let's talk about them car chases.
We might as well talk about the car chases. Yeah, that's one of the highlights. More so in the... Well, I guess I was going to say more so in the climax, but also there is that first car chase when they get pulled over by the state police for the first time. They run Elwood's records and they're like, "Oh, his license has been suspended. We have to arrest him." And so, but they're like, "Well, we're on a mission from God. We can't be arrested." So they just drive away, and that's when they end up at the mall. And
the mall scene is crazy.
The mall scene is insane, yes, because they just run through a Toys R Us, and then they just drive around. It looks like they're purposefully just hitting all these stores on purpose. It's great. It's so hilarious watching this car chase inside a mall.
And it does kind of make me like, out of all the things to make me miss kind of like quote unquote like 80s and 90s films. Like that scene oddly did make me like, man, you like it's gonna be hard to make a movie like this, like a car scene like this anymore, you know?
Yeah, because there's all the safety precautions you have to take into account, which you can, it's fair. But also, yes, there is also the expensive aspect of, okay, where are we gonna find? Well, I mean, I guess now more than ever you can find plenty of abandoned malls, in which case you can just fill them up with props for yourself.
Yeah.
But yes, there is that aspect of, okay, there you have to do so much planning into that because somebody could get hurt. This is a movie directed by John Landis, after all. The man is known for not having the safest film sets, after all.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
wait, what did John Landis do?
So the story goes, so John Landis directed a segment for the Twilight Zone movie from the early 80s.
Oh.
And his segment was the one where Vic Morrow, the actor, was I don't remember what, because it's been years since I've actually seen the movie. I didn't even watch his segment because I remember watching the Twilight Zone movie as like, I must have been like 9 or 10 years old or something like that, because it was on some channel, and we started halfway through one of the other segments, and I just watched the rest for the rest of the time. So I didn't actually see his segment because it was like one of the first segments. But anyway, there's a scene in one of his segments, in his segment, where Vic Morrow and these two child actors actually are supposed to die in Vietnam. And, well, what ended up happening was a helicopter came crashing down on the set because of safety precautions not being taken, and all three actors died. Like, two of them being children. And so, yeah, and so there was a long legal battle with that. Steven Spielberg, who actually makes a cameo in this movie, ended his friendship with John Landis.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like, it just, like, I'm not, like, how do I explain this? I'm tripping over my words. But yeah, like, it's like shit like that. And I understand why it's not done anymore, but it's still, like, a shame that, like, the people just won't take the time or safety precautions to do cool shit like this anymore,
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you have accidents happen on film sets all the time. It's just that sometimes they can be very fatal. That's why, the Crow, famously, that had a onset accident where the main actor actually died from being not shot properly. Brandon Lee, the son of Bruce Lee. And what ended up happening was the stuntman for him, I forget how you say his name, Chad Stahelski, the guy who directed John Wick, he went on to be a very safe stunt coordinator and was a very safe stuntman. And, like, apparently, like, his stunt company has all these precautions on how to stop that. So, like, you can learn things through making them safe, but also making them seem natural. Like, that's what stunt work is all about. I'm just saying that, yes, you can see, like, the way that John Landis filmed especially these scenes. You can see him. They were kind of dangerous. Luckily, no horror stories came out of this movie the same way they did with the Twilight Zone movie, where somebody ended up dying. But you can see there's a lot of incredible stunt work in this. But knowing that John Landis directed it, maybe the proper safety precautions weren't taken. I'm not saying John Landis purposely killed those people, but he is the director. He is morally responsible to make sure that people don't die on his set. So,
yeah, it's
kind of awkward.
Yeah, but yeah, like, it's basically treat your stunt people well.
Exactly. Yeah, of course, exactly. So then they don't end up being Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
So, but we can talk about the car chases, though, because nobody did end up dying filming this movie. So the car chases are immaculate. They're really good. Like, like, it's
even just like minor car stunts where it's like the cars, like, running over the Nazis, and all the Nazi people just, like, fall over. That's just like that. That's just only just like a one scene. It's not even like a big chase, but it's such a funny little car stunt.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, that's a great scene because, again, they just come out of nowhere. They're just like, they're just driving, and they come across to a standstill, and they're like, "What's going on?" One of the cops is like, "Oh, these bums won their court case, so they're doing their march today." What bums? Fucking Nazi party. You just see these Illinois Nazis. It's just like, this comes out of nowhere, but it's so funny because it's so absurd. And then, yeah, you're right. When they just, like, jump off the bridge into the water, it's great. It's a great scene. But yeah, there's another car stunt that's done early in the movie. The
little jump.
Jump over the bridge when, like, the bridge is rising up to let the boats through, and that's when Jake is just like, I don't like this car. And Elwood's just like, oh yeah, watch this. And he just drives over the bridge, over the gap, and he makes
that'll
it.
shut him up.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great example of a great car stunt, and it's memorable. It's hilarious. It's everything that this movie does correctly. So then you can appreciate it better. But yes, and then I mean, to go off the car chases, then we have the ultimate car chase, which is the climax, which is so exciting.
Yeah, it is one of the most exciting climaxes to a film, because you got the race against time. You got to get to the bank so we can get the money in before we get arrested. And it's just like so many parties are happening. There's like the Nazis, the cops, everyone's attacking. Like everyone's chasing these brothers.
And you just see there's so many cop cars in this movie. So many. Like it starts just watching them drive through downtown Chicago. I can't imagine that was easy to film because, well, from what I've heard, Chicago's a pretty big city, so there's a lot of people there.
I actually like that scene. I actually recognized. It's like, oh, I've been there. Like when I've been to Chicago.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh yeah, that must have been a pain to film.
I can also think of other movies that have had scenes filmed there. Like, you know, The Dark Knight was famously filmed in Chicago, and there's a lot of streets that I'm just like, oh, that's in The Dark Knight. But it's supposed to be Gotham City, not Chicago. But yeah, no, there's that really long green bridge in the middle of Chicago. What's that called? It's like,
I don't know.
Okay,
I'm not great with like names. I'm more great with visuals than like naming.
But anyway, there's like that one scene where they're driving like 120 miles down the road, and they're just completely driving through, and there's no cars, so they can do that where they can just drive 120 miles. But that's insane to me that they can drive 120 miles in an urban city. Like, that is unheard of. That is incredibly dangerous. I can barely reach 100 on highways. You know, so it's just insane that they can go that fast.
Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have like the scene where all the cop cars start piling up on each other.
Yeah.
There's this one, I noticed this. There's this one cop car that just completely flies over the entirety of the pile. Like it comes, like the pile starts building up, and then this cop car drives completely over it. It's like, holy shit. Like, how fast was that guy going?
And like we talked about earlier, but like, man, like I hope the proper safety precautions were taken.
Yeah, I mean, maybe somebody broke a finger or something, but nobody died from what I know.
Yeah, so hey, you know what? Like a little broken bone that can be fixed. That's fine.
Yeah,
you know?
a broken life. Yeah, you can't really fix that.
Yeah. But yeah, like all the stunts, it really does feel like a miraculous, like kind of achieve. Like, it's just a well-made film. Like even in, like outside of the comedic and aspects, it's just a film. It's I don't know, it just. And the
production is huge. Like, not only are there all these cop cars just driving to chase them, then you get to, once they actually make it into the building, and you have all the cop cars surrounding, all the firemen come in, and then the fucking National Guard and Army start coming in, and you just see
the escalation.
The escalation is insane, because it just started off with them getting pulled over for maybe running a red light. Then it just escalates to this. But I just love the shot you see where all these army guys, these dudes in army military uniforms, just running into the building. Or running at the building that they went into. Like, it's so massive in scale and scope that it adds to the comedy. It adds to just how hilarious and absurd this whole ordeal is.
Yeah. Is there anything else we want to touch on?
I do want to mention the actual band themselves, because I even as a kid, I noticed this whenever when I first watched this, I noticed the band members are kind of not good actors, or you can tell which ones they're okay with having more speaking lines than others.
They're musicians.
Yes,
you can tell they're musicians first.
They're musicians by trade, absolutely. Yeah. Because, well, then you get that proven when you actually hear them play, and yeah, they're amazing. These guys are incredible at what they do. But it's just really funny, you know. One of the like the actors, like the guitarist Stephen Cropper, I think his name is. You know what? Let me just double check this. Yeah, Steve Cropper, the Colonel, if you will. is like one of the guitar guys, and he comes across as kind of dry and stuff. Like he's not that charismatic. Same with, I love this guy's name, Donald Duck Dunn. He's the bass player. That's such a great name, and he's so good at bass, but then he actually talks, and it's just like, oh, I can see why you didn't get a lot of lines. Why they give like Murph and Alan.
It's about the titular Blues Brothers, not really the Blues Brothers band.
But also, but some of the band members do get more speaking lines, like Murph and Mr. Fabulous. Like Mr. Fabulous is the maitre d' at that restaurant, and he gets a whole scene devoted to trying to get him back. Because he is actually charismatic enough that he comes across as pretty natural when talking. So I can see like, okay, this is why they gave him his own scene to get him back. And then you had other actors, the other band members who were kind of just taken off, who were kind of just just in the same spot. They're just like, hey, we're getting the band back together. It's like, oh, okay, we're all coming together then. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the restaurant scene, that's a great example of showing just how determined they are to get the band back together and how they're on a mission from God. And I love just John Belushi just being a total nuisance to the guy next to him, just being like, hey, I want to buy your women.
Yeah. Oh, that restaurant scene it's a scene.
Do you remember, did you recognize actually one of the waiters?
I think it was Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah, one of the waiters is Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman, in one of his earlier roles. This was before, Pee Wee's Big Adventure, obviously. But yeah, no, that
there's just a lot of like just fun cameos in this. I mean, we haven't mentioned Frank Oz at the beginning of the film.
We should mention Frank Oz. Frank Oz, he plays the corrections officer who's when Jake is being let out of prison, Frank Oz has all his stuff that he went into prison with. So he's just like one pair of sunglasses, one suit, one black suit, one.
It's some peak Frank Ozing.
Yeah. One unused prophylactic, one soiled.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
No, that's great. It's great to see him. John Candy's in this movie. He's one of the officers. I don't know if he is a police officer, but he's not like a state trooper, but he's one of the guys who's trying to chase Elwood and Jake. And one of my favorite scenes of his is when so he's in the car with the two troopers that have been like really revving to get them, and they drive off like a hill or something, and they crash into a truck, and you just see them in the truck, and John Candy takes the radio and is just like, this is car, what car number are we? 55. This is car 55. We're in a truck.
That's good.
It's not a huge John Candy role because, he only gets a handful of scenes, but it's a great testament to just how funny the guy was and why he got bigger roles later on.
It's always just nice to see John
Candy. No, he's one of those actors I love seeing pop up in movies.
Yeah. Do you want to wrap up? Because I think we touched on the music, we touched on the car chases, we touched on a bunch of the jokes.
We said Spielberg made a cameo because he's the guy who's actually at the office.
The
banker, yeah. They actually go to the office and it's Spielberg. He just pops his head out. He's like, can I help you? And then
like all the guns are pointed at the Blues Brothers.
I love that. I love the editing because you have scenes like that where you see it's so tense watching them run up the stairs to get to Jake and Elwood, and then then they go to reach their hands out for the receipt that Spielberg has given them, and then the fucking handcuffs come down, and then they turn around, and all of a sudden everybody's just there. Like you didn't hear them come in; they're just there. The guns pointed. It's a great visual, and it's so well edited for comedic effect. I'll also want to mention the tattoos on their hands. Jake has his on his knuckles. It spells out Jake, and then Elwood's is like all across his fist and then goes into his next fist, but he only has like 2 fingers tattooed with the OD, so it just says Elwood. It's awkward. That's something that always tickled me. I always thought that was hilarious.
And I also just I love the end credits of this movie where you see like all the singers and like characters like kind of sing along. Yeah, and then you get to the crew, just seeing the crew all sing
Oh
together.
yeah, you get a
I was
whole
like,
scene, you get a whole section of the credits where the crew is like, yeah, singing along to Jailhouse Rock because that's the ending song when they're so they end up getting arrested and they go to jail. The whole band does, but now they're performing in jail. Like that's cute. That's funny. Like that's a great way to end because they ended up winning where they did get the money to the office, so then to the Cook County office, so then the orphanage can stay, but also they get arrested because, well, they did break several laws, so
the sins did catch up to them.
It's only fair. But again, it's a comedy film, so like it's the perfect punchline for the movie to end. Oh God, there's another scene I want to talk about, the Minnie the Moocher scene. There's so many good scenes, but as we said, Cab Calloway's in this movie, very famous blues artist. He is very famous for that song, Minnie the Moocher. And so it's when the Blues Brothers are running late, and so but like everybody's there at the show to raise money for the orphanage, and everyone's getting impatient, like we want Blues Brothers, we want Blues Brothers. And so then he's just like, hey, to the band, hey, do you guys know Minnie the Moocher? They're like, yeah, why? He's like, hit it. And then the thing opens up and they're in completely different costumes. Like, that's hilarious. And also it's just a really good song. And just seeing Cab Calloway perform in front of all those people, he genuinely looks really happy to be performing that in front of all those people. And I just love the shot of him. Like, you see the back of him like performing to all the people, and everybody has a smile on their face and they're just like clapping and cheering as he finishes the song. That's a really great shot. I love that.
Yeah, so it's just a happy movie. Like, it's a tad bit cynical, but it's like it's an oddly feel good movie.
Yeah, I think in cynical, I think it's more so just frustrating, but in a comedic way. Like, this is what you would see in a comedy film.
An edge.
Yeah, an edge. Exactly. But there is some wholesomeness to it. Like it is a genuine celebration for the genre of blues. That's why you have several scenes where several blues songs will be playing, and you have all these cameos from genuine musicians making cameos and actually singing really good songs and really good covers of songs. Like, I genuinely love the Blues Brothers cover of Rawhide. I've never heard the original version of Rawhide. I've only ever listened to the Blues Brothers version because I love it so much.
Okay, Blues Brothers, great film.
Yeah, so can I talk about some stuff I have on some of the media I have of Blues Brothers? So obviously, as I've said, this was my very first R-rated film I ever saw. I was like 10, 11, 12. Again, I have no idea how to... I don't know how old I was, but I was a kid when I watched it. And I watched it on this VHS tape we had of it. I still have that VHS tape. And it works. I just watched it this morning. It was from 1985 because like the early mid 80s is when VHS started to become a thing. So even though the movie was from 1980, it was 1985 when they finally released this on VHS.
I remember it took like a couple of years for like movies to get from theaters to because theater. I think movies were in theaters for longer.
Well, so theaters have been around for ever. Like forever, like ever. Yeah. I mean, theaters. The concept of theaters have been around since fucking ancient Greece. When they would put on plays and theater productions. But then motion picture theaters didn't become a thing until 1890s. I want to say, late 1890s. Yeah, that's where the story of the video of the train comes from. Where like they filmed the train. And it came at the screen and everybody screamed because they thought it was real. Apparently that's not true. It's like half true, that story of the train, but I don't know. That's like one of those famous early shot footage is of like a train coming towards the camera. Because they had the technology at that time. But then, theaters have been a thing. What we know as movie theaters now, didn't come into prominence until the early 1900s. and then it just kind of evolved from there. And then yeah, so we didn't have home media options. Well, I guess if you want to be technical, you could watch movies at home ever since the 50s because that's when television took off. But
but like easy access to like watch whenever.
Easy access, actual physical like something you can buy at a store, bring it home and play it on your TV whenever you want. Yeah, that was not a thing until the 80s with VHS and Betamax and stuff like that. I'm sure there's all these different kinds of early versions of home media. But yeah, VHS was obviously the one that won out first because I don't know why. I don't know why VHS won out. It just did. We just watched stuff on VHS for years until we came up with DVDs and we're like, wait, this is better. Fuck VHS.
Yeah, but talk about the VHS.
It's really quite simple. It's simplistic. It literally just says the Blues Brothers on the front. Then you have John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd credited, and then you turn around and it just has like 2 screenshots from the movie. It has when they first meet at the beginning, and they're in front of like this white background that says like the Blues Brothers.
Oh, that's a good shot.
Yeah, that's a great shot. And then I want to say the other shot. Oh, that's the one where they go backwards when the Illinois Nazis are chasing them, and they just like fly over them, and that's when the Illinois Nazis drive off the intersection and just fly into Chicago.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, so I really like this VHS. It's really cute, really something. It holds a special place in my heart. Again, this is how I first watched the movie, so it means a lot to me. So I'm keeping the VHS for sure. And then I just have a standard Blu-ray, standard Universal Blu-ray of the movie.
Did they make a 4K of this yet?
They might have. I think a 4K exists.
Let me look. Blues Brothers 4K. Yeah, it exists.
Okay, good. So yeah, maybe I'll upgrade it to a 4K, but I'm fine with this Blu-ray. I think it looks fine. This Blu-ray comes with the theatrical and extended versions, so I did watch both versions. The extended cut is just more scenes. They don't really play a part in the movie, so I can understand why they would cut them. Like, when I was watching the extended cut, no scene really stuck out to me where I'm just like, oh, I wish they kept that. It's like, oh, that's funny, but like, I can understand why they cut it,
Yeah, and even then, the theatrical cut is over 2 hours.
Yeah, it's already really long.
Yeah, so it's like, do I need an extended cut?
I mean, it's for the diehard fans like me, where I at least I get an option to watch both versions. So, but yeah, I'm definitely keeping this Blu-ray. It's a nice Blu-ray. But one more thing I wanted to mention. I know I'm prolonging the next movie, but I really wanted to bring this up. I have the soundtrack on CD.
Oh.
Yeah, I have the Blues Brothers original soundtrack recording. It comes with 11 songs, and one of them is theme from Rawhide. I love this. Oh, I completely forgot I had this. But then when I was watching recently, I was like, I remember listening to the theme from Rawhide a lot, like growing up from this CD. And I'm like, how did I listen to that? Oh, wait, we had it on CD because one of the things I did when I was like, I want to say 13. So I was in 8th grade when I got my very first MP3 player. We had a whole bunch of CDs that my dad just uploaded to the family computer. And so we just had all these CD files on the computer. And so then I could take all those songs and put them onto my MP3 player. And so that's what I did was we, burned all those CDs onto the computer and took whatever files I wanted to put on my MP3 player. And one of them was the theme from Rawhide from Blues Brothers. And so I listened to that version a lot as a kid. And so, yeah, I had it because of the CD. So I still have the CD.
Yeah.
So, because I brought up CDs before on the podcast, when I talked about Pink Floyd's The Wall, I have that on CD. When I talked about Batman 89 with Bamison, I talked about how I had the Batman 89 soundtrack on CD. So Yeah, again, I'm keeping this CD too because I mean I fucking love this soundtrack. Like I said, I would probably argue this is the best soundtrack to go along with a comedy film because again,
Yeah.
I can't really think of any comedy films that I love where the music is one of the best parts of it. Like I also
like,
said,
even the Weird Al films that like even the comedy Weird Al films they're not really music focused. They're more focused on the joke.
Yeah, exactly. I love UHF but at the bottom of my heart. Like it's one of my all-time favorite. It is probably my all-time favorite comedy. But yes, the music, ironically enough, is not something I would say is the best part of that. Even though Weird Al is a musician. But again, yeah, that's not really a problem because I love UHF because of the jokes and because of the humor. Because every frame of that movie is hilarious.
Yeah, it just each movie has different strengths.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, Blues Brothers, I would argue, is the best soundtrack for a comedy film. Absolutely.
Yeah. I would love to own this movie one day. I will say, just I don't really I mainly collect anime and tokusatsu stuff for my DVDs, but because those are just harder to get, and I'm a big fan of those. So it's hey, when I can get them, I want to get them. But out of the movies, I'd love to get. I'd love to own this one day, maybe even the CD. Because speaking of CDs, the only really CDs I own are Weird Al CDs. I got from a thrift store one day. I was like, oh, well, they have a bunch of Weird Al CDs. I'm gonna get them all.
Yeah, I still collect CDs. I know they're a dated form of media consumption.
Good for the car. They're good for the car.
They're good for the car. They're also just good to have a physical collection of music. I'm a huge collector of physical media when it comes to movies. Music, I've never been as passionate for the same way I am for film, but I do have my favorite bands and my favorite songs, so I still want them physically somehow. It's just streaming music is far more it's far more easier than streaming movies. I'll say that.
Yeah,
because
I mean they're audio files instead of 2-hour epics.
Exactly. And also you just have Spotify, whereas with movies you have Netflix, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, Peacock, all this bullshit. It's so but yeah, no, good movie, great movie in fact, and I'm glad to keep it in the collection for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to discuss it with you.
Yeah. So I guess we're gonna talk about another movie this episode that's why don't you introduce this one, Buster, since you were really excited about this one.
All right.
This is your favorite movie of all time.
Okay, well, maybe not that far. But I kind of forgot why I wanted to talk about this until recently when you guys watched it without me. And I was salty. And I realized, oh, wait, I think I have a soft spot for the Country Bears.
I guess this has happened a lot where we just watch movies without somebody. Because, we watched, me and James and Lily and all of us watched Yongary 98, and William got really salty. And the dominoes to that led to the 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat and Showgirls 2 episode. So, now we have... Well, we watched Country Bears without you. I don't remember why. We just did. And so then... it led to us doing a Country Bears episode. So, you know what? More wholesome than the 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat and Showgirls 2 episode.
Yeah, I think I said I wanted to do this initially because, even before that happened, because it's the Country Bears and Blues Brothers, they have the same plot.
I do remember, yes, you had said, I want to do a Blues Brothers episode at some point. I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. What should we pair it with? And then you said Country Bears. And I'm like, country what now?
Yeah, so this is based on the Disney Park attraction, which recently got refurbished of all things in Florida. It's closed in California. Fun fact, as I told Hal during our watch through of the movie, this closed on September 9th, 2001, which was 6 to 8 months before this movie came out in California. So this was made to promote an attraction. And you couldn't visit one of the attractions anymore.
Yeah.
How the movie came out.
Yeah.
And also, it closed on September 9th, 2001. Do the math.
That was the saddest day in September of 2001, let me tell you. It's okay. You know what? I'm sure little Billy, who wanted to go to the country bears in California. His parents were like, you know what? We feel bad. Billy, let's take you to your second favorite place in a couple days from now. The World Trade Center. Oh. No, but anyway,
So, yeah.
let's so Country Bears. So I had heard of this movie. I'm pretty sure there was like a trailer for it. I remember there being a commercial for it on some VHS I owned as a kid. Some Disney VHS, I'm sure, that was just like the Country Bears. It's just like, what? Who would watch this? It never looked interesting to me. Then years later, the Nostalgia Critic did a review. I think I watched it when it came out, and I was like, oh, okay, this seems really dumb. And then, yeah, you were very excited to talk about it for this episode. You were just like, we're going to talk about it with Blues Brothers. I'm like, okay. And then, yeah, there was that initial night when I think it was the day before I recorded episode 100, we watched Country Bears. Because I had watched Thomas the Magic Railroad with John that day. And then I went home and I went on to VC. And William was just like, hey, good news. We're watching Country Bears. I'm like, oh, God, are we? And so up until that moment, I was like, not a Country Bears fan. I was like, what the hell is this? Why would I ever watch this? This is a stupid, stupid Disney film from the early 2000s. And then I watched through the movie, and I've been converted into a country brother. Let me tell you, like, I am a Country Bears truther. Okay, I love this movie.
Yeah, honestly, when I didn't really think much. I was like, oh, okay, it's a silly movie with the same plot as Blues Brothers. But then I actually like watched it. I'm like, oh, we might have something here.
It is kind of special. It is a special. It was made at a time, the early 2000s. I'm very fond of the early 2000s. Like I have different obsessions over different decades, I would say, but early 2000s are special for a reason because, well, that's when I was a child. That's when I grew up. So, other decades I have fascinations for because I didn't grow up during them. So I didn't really live them out, but they still fascinate me. But the 2000s is one I actually experienced. Like, I actually experienced watching stuff in the 2000s. I grew up in the 2000s. So watching something that's from the 2000s feels extraordinarily nostalgic for me because I lived through the 2000s and I didn't even realize how far away they were until looking back, where I'm just like, oh shit, the world is very different than it was in 2002. But I didn't realize that because I just lived through it, It's kind of hard to explain, but it's like this weird perception of time.
It's nostalgia.
Yeah, it is very much nostalgia, but like nostalgia I can actually feel.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, so it is the same plot where it's like, oh, the band broke up due to some circumstance. And so now the characters have to get the band back together to save a place they hold so near and dear to their heart, that being Country Bear Hall.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the movie. I mean, they're also being pursued by two cops and Christopher Walken.
Yeah, no Nazis in this one.
No Nazis in there's no Nazis in this one. Disney doesn't like putting Nazis in their stuff ever since the Fuhrer's phase.
Yeah. But yeah, and let's start with the Bears, because I've seen people complain about the way the Bears look. I'm going to be the one guy who's going to defend the way the Bears look, not just because Jim Henson made the Bears, but because they look like the Disney animatronics brought to life.
You know what?
Like,
they're not awful animatronics. Like,
yeah,
they're not Jim Henson's best. Like, obviously, stuff like The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth are goated and will never be topped. But for what it is, yes, the fact that it's based off of animatronics of a Disney ride, they're not bad. Like, and they're honestly not terrible looking. Like, they actually can articulate and actually make some really interesting facial expressions. They're
they're comedy bears.
They're a couple of steps above Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck, that one, it's an impressive puppet, but it's not impressive in its articulation. Whereas this is a step up, where it's like, okay, I can kind of see the facial expressions actually working.
Specifically with Big Al. He's like my favorite of the bears. Like
That's a
the guy who's like
sign.
old man. Yeah, that's a sign. Like
Keep off the grass.
He gets both the funniest facial expressions and some of the funniest lines too, and it's also just the vocal delivery. Like a lot of the voice actors just like really like sell the earnestness of these bears.
I
like,
may be
so
chubby, but I'm quick.
well.
Yeah, so
yeah,
so we've got some usual voice actors in here. We got Kevin Michael Richardson as Henry Dixon Taylor, the band's manager.
yeah.
You get Brad Garrett as Fred Betterhead. You get Stephen Root as Zeb Zuber. You get Toby Huss as Tennessee O'Neill. It's like, oh wow, these are, and then well, I guess I should round it off with Dietrich Bader as Ted Betterhead, like the main singer. Like, yeah, no, these are great actors, like great voice actors, who've done some really good stuff. Well, that's the weird thing is that they're voice actors because they've done voices, but then they're also good actors in other things. Like I've seen them in live action roles and they're really good in those too. So yeah, no,
they're character actors.
Character actors, exactly. Yeah, they're really good character actors. I really like their stuff.
And it's like they do sell the like the Southern Bear comedy.
Yeah,
for lack of a better word.
I mean that's what it is, Southern Bear comedy. Yeah. And then, well, we also got to talk about the main character, that being Barry.
Yeah, played by Haley Joel Osment,
voiced by I don't know what do we want to
Sora Kingdom Hearts.
Sure, yeah. I wasn't going to be the one to say it, but yeah.
I mean, I'm the Kingdom Hearts fan here.
Yeah,
so.
And again, the only extent of my knowledge of Kingdom Hearts is through Oni Plays, so I can't really speak on that. But yeah, Sora.
Yeah, it is. This was like peak Haley Joel Osment, because this was the same year the first Kingdom Hearts game.
That's right,
out.
2002.
So
this
was like him at his peak.
Yeah, a couple years earlier was AI and The Sixth Sense, so like those were big movies of the time. Yeah, so yeah, he was clearly, well, 2002 was also the year of Hunchback of Notre Dame too, and he was in that. So, but at least he was in Kingdom Hearts and Country Bears.
Yeah, two good movies.
Two good
things.
Two good things, exactly. And then
Barry is like
he's just
like
average kid character, you know. He's not awful.
He has a charm to him. Like I joked about like, oh, this guy, he dresses the same way as me, but he does feel very much like that kid who like he has like his interests and he's very like dedicated to those interests.
Yeah, he's a very dedicated
but it's not like in
child.
a clawing. It's not a very clawing or like insulting way that like other like media portrays like fanboys and stuff. It's very down to earth and very like wholesome. It's a good family film.
Yeah,
General Country Bears is a good family film. It's not really trying to push the limit of like what it is. It's just for what it knows what it is, and it's just trying to have a fun time with it.
Yeah,
like,
and when it tries to be like funny and mean spirited, it does so. It actually succeeds in that. Like you have his brother, you know, not his real brother,
Dex.
But Dex, who's played by what's his name, the kid who played Hogarth in the Iron Giant.
Oh really?
Yeah,
that's news to me.
Yeah, no, how do you say his name? Eli Marenthal or something like that. Yeah, he was Hogarth in the Iron Giant. So Olivia, this one's for you. Hey Dean, watch this.
Yeah.
But he has some really good. He has some really good line reads, even though he's a kid. Like there's that scene where at the beginning when they're at the breakfast table, and Barry says something about he says something about the Country Bears. He's like, "Did you know the Country Bears are da da da?" And his brother goes, "Wow! And did you know that nobody cares?"
Yeah,
like just the way he says that line is so funny.
He kind of feels like plucked out of a different movie sometimes. How like mean spirited he is, but it's still like earnestly funny.
It's
and
great.
He does come around
because he's very much a realist in this movie. So every character is kind of just okay with the fact that there's a bunch of these like bears running around just in normal society. You know, the first joke of the movie when we see Barry is that he goes downstairs to his family. You don't see his family yet, but you hear them at the breakfast table, and Barry just goes, "Mom, Dad, am I adopted?" And then it hard cuts to them and they're just normal looking people, and they're just like, what gave you that idea, son? And his father's played by Stephen Tobolowsky, which is great actor. Yeah, a lot of great character actors is what I'm trying to say in this movie.
Yeah, and it's like, if we're gonna talk about like the way a lot of these actors deliver funny lines that could easily fall flat, but they deliver them in such a funny way that it makes them very memorable, we have to talk about Christopher Walken.
So Christopher Walken is the villain of the movie. He's like a banker who's trying to tear down Country Bear Hall. And I mean, we're all familiar with Christopher Walken and how weird he is when it comes to movies. But yeah, he is weird, but he brings this charm to every role where he's taking it very seriously. He's like a step above Nicolas Cage, where Nicolas Cage is inherently a funny human being because of just his mere existence is hilarious, but he is a genuinely good actor, and you see him like take his roles very seriously. Christopher Walken is that, but to a wackier level. Like, you know, he's taking the roles very seriously, but he's just a very strange human being where every line delivery is so absurd and weird.
Oh no, Country Bear Hall has been crossed.
There's this one scene. It comes out of nowhere. You just see him at his desk, and he's just like I don't know, doing whatever, like just making raspberry noises, and then he walks over to his door and he doesn't have any pants on, and he has like these green bunny slippers, and then he sits back down and he puts up a replica of Country Bear Hall on his desk, and then he presses a button off a remote, and this giant wrecking ball comes down and crushes it on his desk. And he's just like, oh no, Country Bear Hall has been crushed.
He does it multiple times.
He does it like 5 or 6 times. It's like, yeah, like you were saying, he has the best hater energy in this movie.
Yeah, he is the haterest hater to ever hater in a children's film. It's great.
It's incredible.
And then the twist with him, like
that's
the
right.
last,
so
like where it turned. Do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll explain it. So I'll explain the setup is that they're going through Barry's little scrapbook, his obsessive scrapbook about the Country Bears, and he comes across a newspaper clipping of like their first their first like gig where they actually performed at like a school talent show, and at that school talent show there is this kid there who did the arm fart. He did like an arm fart performance of the 1812 Overture. And they're just like, oh yeah, that kid threw a chair at us. He was not happy that he lost, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's just for kids who are not paying attention, they're like, oh, that's a funny scene, but then they forget about it. But then it's brought back later when it's revealed Christopher Walken was that arm fart kid.
Yeah.
Which, again, it's obvious if you were paying attention. Like, I think I called it when I first watched the movie, but it's still a genuinely good twist because, it makes sense. So that's his motivation. He was jealous of the Country Bears for stealing his thunder.
Yeah, and it's just a good comedy twist.
Yeah,
it's all a comedy movie.
And it's just hilarious to watch Christopher Walken do an arm fart. Just start doing the arm farts like in a serious moment, like the reveal when he starts like arm farting the 1812 Overture. It's just like, all right, that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's a good bit. And we haven't really talked about the music of this film, or like the musical moments, because they're country bears, they do little country music. I'm not the biggest country music guy, but I did enjoy a lot of the tunes in this film.
Oh yeah. I'm not somebody to claim I'm a huge country fan. I don't want to be one of those cliched people. They're just like, oh, country is my least favorite genre of music. It's like, I don't want to say that. It's just 90% of country kind of annoys me and I find obnoxious. My go-to answer whenever I get asked what do I like country, my go-to answer is always I like Johnny Cash. Like, Johnny Cash would be my favorite country artist because I genuinely love his music. But on average, yes, I'm with you. I'm not much of a country fan. But with that said, I really like the music in this movie.
Yeah, and it's not just country. They kind of cover a wide variety of genres.
Yeah.
But always with a hint of country to it.
Yeah. like the very first, like when we meet Fred, when he's the security guard at that studio, and that's when famous woman from 2002 shows up. So remember, there's that scene where she like walks into the scene, and it's supposed to be a moment where like you as an audience member are supposed to know who that is because it's 2002, and she's just like, hey man, and Fred's just like, oh, I'm just here to guard the act or whatever, and she's like, well, I am the act. And then he's like, oh, Crystal, whoa, and you're just like, ah, Crystal, who? Because
she had a single in 2001, and that's about it.
Yeah, we're watching this as an audience in the year 2024, over 20 years after this movie came out. We have no idea who this person is. Like, we don't know who she is, what band she was in, if she was actually famous or if she was just Disney Channel famous. We don't know. Like, like in 2002, we probably would have known. We would have been like, oh, that's Crystal what's her face. But no, like, here we're just like, I don't know who that is. You know, with other musical cameos, we understand who that is. Like, oh, that's Willie Nelson. Oh, that's Queen Latifah. Oh, that's Elton John. Because, you know, those are artists who are either still around today or whose legacy is still around today. Like, we understand who they are.
Yeah.
It's just really funny how she's just like, actually, I'm the actor. We're just like, ah, who?
Who?
Yeah, it's a very it's also one of the reasons why something like the Blues Brothers works better, because again, those are all the musician cameos that happen in that movie. You know who those are. You know Aretha Franklin, you know Cab Calloway, you know Ray Charles. I don't know who this Crystal girl is.
Yeah, and even then, they don't really rely on your knowledge. Like, even if you don't know them in the Blues Brothers, they're just kind of like, yeah, like they're gonna play a fun song for you. They got something to prove.
Yeah.
You know, it's not really like it doesn't really it's not celebrity focused. It's like, hey, look at what this cool person can do. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Whereas here, I mean, it's not a bad song, but it's not the one I'm remembering the most.
The Kick It Up a Notch song at the diner is
dude, Kick It Into Gear. That's
Kick It Into Gear.
Yeah, that's like
why should I say Kick It Up a Notch?
I mean, it's kick is in the title. I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that song is not only very memorable, I remember it because William plays it a lot, because we'll just be watching a movie and then randomly he'll just exit out and just go to YouTube and put on Kick It Into Gear for the scene from that.
Yeah. It's a great dance choreography in that, because it's like you got all these tables like moving around.
It's a really exciting number.
Yeah,
because you see the tables moving around, you see the grandmas with their saxophones, the kitchen staff just so happened to bring their guitar in to work that day. It's like
banging on pots and pots.
Pans and pots. Yeah, it's like okay, but it is like I said, it's an exciting number.
Yeah. And then like the Country Bears, like themselves, they do some funny stuff, like funny music. Why do you think their music is funny? It's like I don't know how to explain. I guess country is just inherently a funny genre to me.
It is a funny, yeah. They you can get some funny songs out of the country genre.
Yeah, not even just like the lyrics. It's just the way it's done. It just the instrumentals just make me laugh. I don't know how to explain it.
One of my favorite scenes is definitely I guess favorite is a bit much, but it is very memorable, is when they go to see Zeb Zuber and
the fiddle.
Yeah, the fiddle, and that's when they have the fiddle competition where he's playing against Brian Setzer, and he ends up winning because he can actually play the fiddle, and it's actually really good fiddle playing. Like, it's worthy of Baba O'Reilly by The Who, I will say.
Yeah. Like that's it. I guess that's where like I think it's funny, because it's like they're just like, yo, he starts failing but then he gets back up, and it's like I don't, the fiddle is just a funny instrument,
and I like it's the same thing as it was in Blues Brothers. The actual characters themselves are great musicians. I mean, they're just animatronic bears. They're just people in bear costumes. But the music itself is really good, so it makes it seem like these are actually talented musicians. Even though, again,
like in universe they are.
Yeah, in universe they're talented musicians, and I like that.
Yeah, like there's a reason they had their whole like rise to fame initially in universe.
Exactly.
What else? Oh, the car wash scene.
Yeah, well, this ties into the cops. The cops, Officer Ham and Cheats, are so funny.
Yeah,
Especially Diedrich Bader. He's kind of the one, like like every line of dialogue of his has me in stitches. He's so funny.
yeah.
I mean,
Mustache.
the mustache,
like
yeah, the mustache is so good. But yeah, so it ties into the car wash. So they're being chased by the cops, and the roadie. So they have a roadie with them who's driving the tour bus. He's just like, all right, guys, I have a plan. It's called, we're gonna hide out in the car wash. And they're like, what does that entail? He's like, we're gonna hide out in the car wash. And they go into a car wash, and that's when the cops like are just like, we lost him. How do you lose a bus? And they drive by the car wash, and you see there's like a sign that says bingo at 9 p.m. And that's when Diedrich Bader goes, bingo, 9 o'clock.
A lot of good signs.
Because he actually is looking at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
When he's like looking towards them. It's like, what a great joke. Like, who came up with that? Like, who came up with that? They had to actually film a scene of them driving by. They actually made a banner that says bingo 9 p.m. Like, that's so, they went the extra mile to make such a good joke, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then the whole car wash thing is just so absurdly fun.
Yeah, because then they're just like, because then they get out of the car and they're just like going through the car wash. They would absolutely get really hurt, but this is for a comedy kids film, so like they're fine. They just walk out.
Yeah.
They walk out all squeaky clean. Their clothes are much shorter because they went through the wash, and their hair is all frizzy. And I love Diedrich Bader's hair, how it's like sticking all the way back. It's such a good comedic reveal. And then it's revealed that his mustache was fake all along.
And he has and then there's like another scene where he has like a box filled with mustaches.
Yeah.
He like opens up.
Yeah, and then he just puts it on. It's great. It's so funny.
Yeah, there's all these little comedic touches that you wouldn't really expect out of like a typical 2000s children's films, but it really does help it like age well.
And they're genuinely funny. Like, these are genuinely funny moments.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying like they are funny and in an ironic sense at times. Like, there's just so like, just the idea of these country bears going on an adventure to get the band back together. That's inherently absurd, but I feel like the movie understands that.
Yeah. Like it's kind of tongue in cheek, but like it's still very like, yeah, we know this isn't going to be high art, but we're still going to do our best.
But yeah, they're still going to do their best. Exactly. They're not like just dropping the ball on purpose and being like, well, it's the Country Bears, what do you expect? It's like that's what they would do nowadays, where they'd be lazy with their comedy, where they'd just be like, this is a stupid movie, so we're just going to be as lazy as possible about it.
And even back then they would do that. It's just, this is one of the few 2000s children's films I've seen recently that kind of still holds up, because I watched the freaking Charlie and the Chocolate Factory 2000 remake.
Ooh.
And that kind of like it doesn't hold up, guys. It's not that great.
That movie is so scary. Like, that, I'm surprised I'm as normal as I am when I watched that as a kid, because that movie is fucking terrifying looking back. Like, there's some imagery in that where I'm like, I would never show this to a child. This is too much for them.
Yeah, but like, and even just back then, you have like other live action like animal movies, like the freaking dog movies, or like freaking Kangaroo Jack. I know Kangaroo Jack wasn't meant to be a kid's film, but it released as one. So, but you get what I mean. Those kinds of films, like, they still kind of flop back in the day, but like this one just still manages to just be fun.
Yeah, again, because it genuinely feels like they care about the story, but they care about the comedy. And so you have this really absurd movie. Yeah, again, this shouldn't work because, again, it's the Country Bears movie. It's so stupid. But they're actually taking the time to tell these actually legitimately funny jokes. And the story's not the greatest, but it works for what it is. Oh, we go to this place, we go to that place, we get to this character, we get to that character. It's not a terrible film at that. But what makes it better is that comedy. The fact that they actually care about the comedy. Yeah, if this was made today, they would just be like, oh, this is stupid, guys, so we're not even going to try it. It'd be like Rubber, that fucking killer tire movie.
I did not hear about that. I thought you meant Flubber for a second.
No, not Flubber. Well, Flubber, I guess, is also inherently silly, but they take it seriously. Flubber's its own can of worms. Flubber's awful. Such an awful movie. Yeah,
get back to
Rubber is a film about a killer tire, which, you know, sounds absurd. That sounds stupid. Of course, it would be a dumb movie. But the filmmakers made the mistake of being this like quasi self-aware film where it's kind of punishing the audience for expecting anything. And it's like, okay, you're just a stupid movie now. Like, you're going way too far into self-awareness that it makes me wonder, why am I even watching this now? When you could have just been
an asshole.
Yeah, you could have just been a dumb movie about a killer tire. That's all you needed to do, and you couldn't even do that right. Like, that's why Country Bears works. It could have just been like, we're the Country Bears. This is actually not a serious movie. This is stupid. We're not going to try. And we would have been like, wow, what a waste of time. What a waste of everybody's time. This sucks. It's like, no, it's actually funny. It's actually told all right for what it is. It's a kid's movie after all. It's not the highest art, but you know, it works. Like, I could show this to a child and I wouldn't feel bad about that. I'd just be like, yeah, just watch this fun movie. And they'd be like, wow, that was fun. And if it connects with them, they'll be nostalgic for it years later, you know?
Yeah, it's like, well, yeah, it's. I know this movie didn't get the best reviews, like, when it came out, probably because, like, everyone was kind of. I think, like, I understand why, you know, like, most of the people who were reviewing it weren't, like,
I think a couple of things happened. So I would think, yes, the movie is inherently silly, and for whatever reason, just people weren't ready to take inherently silly movies at face value back in the day. So if something was inherently silly, they just write it off as, like, terrible. And it's like, okay, well, I feel like nowadays our senses of humor have kind of evolved to a place where you're going to get a cult following of something eventually. Yeah. So I feel like back in the day, people just weren't ready for a movie of this silliness, of this caliber of silliness. But also, this came out in 2002, and it's based off of a Disney ride. The year after, another movie based on a Disney ride came after. Do you remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
I forgot if it was Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean was first. Yeah. Well, Haunted Mansion came after Pirates so you could tell. So yeah, Country Bears was first, then Pirates, and Pirates was huge. Pirates was massive when it came out. People loved Pirates of the Caribbean because, well, Pirates of the Caribbean is a genuinely great film. Like, let's be honest. And then then Haunted Mansion came out, and it sucked really hard because, well, it's the Haunted Mansion starring Eddie Murphy. Of course it was terrible. But yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean came out after. So I think people just didn't like Country Bears at first, then immediately forgot about it because then they went on to Pirates, and Pirates was the bigger hit. So they just kind of forgot about Country Bears. And so that's why, like, even though I remember Doug, like, you know, shitting all over Country Bears, you know, I don't really hear people often talking about Country Bears in any real way. They're just like, oh, it was just a stupid movie from the early 2000s. But
a YouTuber I follow recently made a video about it. His name is Film Freak. He does some pretty good stuff, but like that's like the only time I can think of a recent memory where people have discussed the Country Bears, right? Like besides us, you know?
Yeah, it's not terribly popular.
It's cult hits.
Yeah, very much so. Which is fine. I think that's for the better. You know, it's an absurd movie. I think trying to force it on the masses is a big mistake. I think.
Yeah, especially it's like it's a children's film. Not everyone's gonna think it's like it's ultimately a family film.
Yeah.
Like, so like, and not everyone is gonna vibe with just a silly family film.
Yeah,
I've learned.
Yeah, I will. I mean, depending on the family film, of course. Like like I said, I love early 2000s schlock, so this was right up my alley.
And I think it like goes above schlock for me.
Oh yeah,
it's just it's a fun film.
Yeah, I could recommend this to anybody, whether or not they're gonna get anything out of it. Like, I have friends who don't like it, and that's fine. Like, again, if I had to recommend a real movie, Blues Brothers, you know.
Yeah.
But like,
this is like if Blues Brothers is like the real version of this story, like the real like movie version of the story, this is like the Wheel Night, our like sense of humor, the friend group sense of humor.
Oh yeah, this makes for a great VC film. Like I've seen it in VC twice. It's a fun time no matter what. Like it's so much fun.
So grab some friends and maybe check it out.
Yeah.
It's on Disney Plus if you still have that for some reason.
Yeah. Well, one more thing I want to mention actually with this movie that we have to mention is, well, it pertains to Christopher Walken. We have to talk about the line.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of the lines from Christopher Walken.
Yeah, well, there is the "oh no, Country Bears has been crushed." But I'm talking about his last line when he's ultimately defeated, when all the people file into Country Bear Hall, so he's lost. Country Bear Hall is going to be saved, and the swaths of people start filing into the hall, and and that's when he gets swept away by this crowd of people, and he yells out to the bears his final line: "This is not over, bears!"
Bears! Yeah, baby. It's never over.
It's so absurd because the normal way you would say that line is "This isn't over, bears," which is already just a goofy line to say. This is not over, bears. But he says it in such an awkward way because there's an awkward pause between over and bears where the bears part sounds kind of like an afterthought. Like he had just realized that he was dealing with animatronic bears. So he just goes, "This is not over, bears." It makes the movie. It's so good. Yeah. It's one of the best parts of the movie.
Yeah, there's so many good Christopher Walken lines in this movie. Just look up if you don't want to watch the full movie, just look up a compilation of his best moments.
You will definitely find that clip on YouTube. Yeah, because it's a famous clip, I guess. I mean, I've seen it in Nostalgia Critic context, but also I would just like to imagine there's a YouTube upload of it somewhere. This is not over, bears.
Bears. Just the bear power.
Yeah, bear power. Yeah, that really went places.
It's just a charming, silly little film. I like it. I like Country Bears. Sadly, there's no Blu-ray of it, but there's plenty of DVD. I looked. There's no Blu-ray. There's a DVD.
Blu-ray.
They're you can buy DVDs of it, I think.
Well, that's good.
No.
Country Bears Blu-ray.
Yeah, it's on Blu-ray.com, but it only really lists the DVD release.
Oh, yeah.
Which is weird for a website called Blu-ray.com, but hey, what you gonna do?
Yeah, I'm not seeing an Amazon link for Country Bears Blu-ray. Oh man.
I found the Amazon link for the DVD, so
yeah.
Hey, I mean, this isn't really a movie that needs the highest quality of. Oh, there's a VHS tape version of this movie. I mean, that makes sense. This was still prime VHS.
Yeah, 2002. I can believe that. Yeah, because remember the story goes the last film to be distributed officially on VHS was A History of Violence, which was 2004.
Yeah,
and then
I think Cars also had a VHS.
Yeah, they still made VHSs past 2004. That's why you get The Incredibles on VHS. And yes, there does exist VHSs of Cars and Revenge of the Sith, but again, they weren't distributed as widely.
Mass retail.
Yeah, no, that was when mass retail, exactly. So they were probably still making VHSs, but they were on more of a local scale. So those are a lot more rare.
Yeah. Yeah, if you do so wish to own Country Bears, it's on DVD from Amazon.
I guess so, yeah. I'm not seeing any Country Bears Blu-ray, so that's such a shame. But yeah, you know what?
Maybe.
No, you go ahead.
Maybe if Disney Movie Club was still around, because I think they recently either closed that or restructuring, then we would have gotten a Blu-ray through that.
Maybe, yeah. But also I'm reminded of back when I talked about Panic Room with Mordo. I got Panic. We talked about how that didn't have a Blu-ray release either. That's a movie from 2002, actually. That doesn't have a Blu-ray release, but that's such an early 2000s cheesy movie that I'm fine with having it on a DVD. And so, yeah, if and whenever I get to Country Bears on DVD, because I do want to add it to the collection because this is such an it's such a funny movie that I wanted in my collection that, yeah, I'd be okay with just having it on a Disney DVD. Disney DVDs from the early 2000s are actually really good quality, I must say.
Yeah, I mean that's when like Disney used to be the king of physical media for a bit there.
Yeah. What happened? What the fuck happened?
Yeah, what did happen? I mean, granted, they're trying to put their streaming shows on DVD and Blu-ray, but like...
Oh, yeah. I have Andor on Blu-ray, actually. I recently got that a couple weeks ago. I've been watching through Andor.
Oh, early impressions? Because I heard like it's one of the better Star Wars shows.
I have been having a good time. I've just been like... I mean, nothing has happened where I'm just like, oh, this is the best ever. But, like, I don't know. It hasn't been pissing me off like something like Kenobi had or had Mandalorian had or any of the MCU Disney Plus shows had. Like, I don't know. It's nothing. It's not. Again, these are just early impressions. I'll sure to have more solid thoughts once I actually finish the show. It's good. I just haven't seen what makes it amazing yet. And I guess maybe that's more of a testament to how bad the other Disney Star Wars stuff has been, which, to be fair, the Disney Star Wars stuff has been bad. It's just I guess this is just good, and so when people see something that's just good, they treat it as the second coming of Christ when compared to what else happened, which is completely fair. I get it.
Well, yeah. I've only watched 2 episodes of it, so I don't know why I asked for early impressions. I guess I just wanted it for the YouTube audience. Yeah, curious.
For anybody who's curious, yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, Country Bears, good movie. Don't listen to the haters, or do. I don't care.
Yeah, just it's at least fun to check out once in your lifetime.
Oh yeah. It's worth watching, I would say.
Yeah, even as like a cheesy bad movie or just a fun family film, like whatever you think come out of it, you're sure to have a memorable time.
Exactly. All right, Buster. I think that just about does it. Anything last minute to talk about with either Blues Brothers or Country Bears?
Well, besides them having like similar plots, not really. It's like I guess we covered all we wanted to.
I guess the last connection I want to make is the woman who plays the mom in Country Bears. She's from Joliet, Illinois, and Joliet is what they call Jake in the Blues Brothers. Joliet Jake Blues.
And they filmed it in Joliet, apparently, like Blues Brothers. So.
Hey, how about that? Another connection. Wow, these movies are tied together like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm Buster. I do video analysis and various podcasts over at Buster Corp. I also have a group podcast channel where we shoot the shit about lots of things called Modular Media. So, go check out both those channels. You're sure to find a fun time looking through my catalog of over 300 videos. Oh my god.
Wow, 300. That might be more than what I have. I actually don't remember how many videos I have on my channel.
Let me double check.
Yeah.
Citizen How many videos does Citizen How have? Tune in right now to find out. He has 253. All right, yeah, I have more than you.
That makes sense.
Granted, you have bigger videos.
Yeah, that's
literally
true.
And figuratively.
That's true. So, yeah. All right, great. Yeah, well, your links will be in the description below as per usual.
Yeah, I'm also on Letterboxd if you just want to stalk my page.
Yeah, see all the movies we watch every Saturday with Shafrilus.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I guess we know Shafrilus. Do you know Shafrilus? Do you know? What? How do you know? Why are you watching all this?
Eyebrows?
So, all right. Well, I guess that just about does it then. Thank you all for watching. This is not over. Bears. There, we did it. We said the line to end off the episode. All right, bye-bye, Bears.